when you start studying Judo, you'll see that someplace you'll read or somebody will tell you that there are 3 parts to a Judo throw. There's Kuzushi, Tsukuri, and Kake. And somebody will say that Kuzushi means off balance, Tsukuri means fitting, and Kake means the throw. Well, it's not quite right, but it's not a really bad translation. Kuzushi means to crush. And so what you're trying to do is to crush your opponent's, your partner's ability to do anything back to you, or to escape for that matter. Okay, so you get him into a position where he can't really respond in a strong way. That's what Kuzushi is. Off balance is a term that we use just because it's easy for us to kind of swallow, but it's not really quite right. Tsukuri is, they say fitting, but it really means to manufacture something. And so, or something is made. And it's a process where you fit your body, that's why they use the word fit, but that process where you get all your arms and legs and your hips in a proper position in order to make the throw. And then once that's done, then you can do Kake, which isn't really to throw. Nage is to throw. So Seoi Nage means shoulder throw. But Kake doesn't mean to throw. It means the execution of something. So it's also a process, but it's kind of the completion. It's the execution of the process. One of the things that it always looks like, or it looked like to me when I first started Judo, is that you do Kuzushi first and you do Tsukuri next, and then once the Tsukuri is done, then you can do the Kake. But the only thing that I ever really was taught over the 40-some years that I've been doing Judo is they would talk a lot about Kuzushi, and then they would talk a lot about Kake, and Tsukuri wasn't talked about much at all. Other than the fact that you kind of get into position, and then you've gotten into the position to make the throw. And I think my own thinking just recently is, last time I was here, I talked about an internal combustion engine, and so the piston goes up, and that would be to crush something. You're crushing the air and the fuel mixture. It gets to the top, and there's a spark, and then you go, the piston is pushed down, which could be Kake, and that spot at the very top was a Tsukuri, and I've changed my mind. It isn't a point in time. Instead, it's a process. And we put the Tsukuri next to the Kake, but Kuzushi doesn't necessarily come over here in front of Tsukuri. It could actually be happening at the same time. And it could be that Tsukuri goes like this. So you start Tsukuri first, then you get involved in doing Kuzushi, and then at the end you end up with Kake. So Tsukuri and Kuzushi, I think, are kind of sliding. And in fact, I wonder sometimes if maybe you don't have an overlap of Tsukuri with the Kake itself. In the first throw that we're doing today, we're going to discuss these 3 terms, but I'm going to show you what I think happens, and that is that the manufacturing part, or the fitting part, actually overlaps the Kake, or the throwing part, or the execution part. Okay? But the reason why I'm sharing this is more for the black belts. I've got a couple white belts in here, who this may be just slightly over your head. There's a good throw that happens because of this. But I'm appealing more to the black belts and the brown belts to take a look at this, so you can kind of analyze your own throws and begin to look at these little pieces and how they fit together, so that you can go from an off balancing or crushing, and then incorporate the fitting part or the mechanical parts of the throw, and to make it get to the execution so that you can make the execution. Okay. All right. Anybody have any questions on that? All right, that's good. Close. Not the long distance, but short distance. We're going to do Izaguruma. And as in those of you who study Judo know, there's always a little mystery in Judo about how things happen. And so we're engaged in, why don't you stand, yeah, right there. We're engaged in a right natural posture here. What I want to do is, without moving my hands, I want Ken Sensei to go backwards here. So he's over here, and he's going to do a front rolling fall. All right? So that's basically all Kizuguruma is. All right? There's some mystery that happens in between the two of us, and then he does this front rolling fall. That's the direction that he wants to go. So what I want to do is, I want to take advantage of his front rolling fall. I don't want to pick him up. I don't want to have to do any more muscle work than absolutely necessary in order to get him to do that. So when he makes his front rolling fall, I really need to watch and feel where he is, because all I want to do is I just want to feel where that happens to be, so I don't end up spending a lot of muscle in order to get him to go in a direction that he really doesn't want to go in. Okay, so I'm here, I push him back this way, I drive my foot up, I get him here, he's on his little toes, and he does a front rolling fall. Okay, so part of this is Kuzushi, because what I'm doing is I'm pushing him back. Here we're both stable, all right? But I'm going to push with this back leg. And so I'm going to press up. Notice I'm tipping him up on one foot, and I'm going to slide my foot up so I end up to be in better balance. All right? He's on his little toes. His forward roll fall goes over that way. I'm going to help him get there by just rotating my hip back. He does a forward roll fall. Notice I haven't even lifted my foot yet. Kizuguruma is, that characteristic is that foot comes up and touches his knee. That's the Hiza part. Guruma means wheel. We're going to skip that part altogether. All right, we're going to start out first by just pressing our partner back, slide up so that he ends up being on his little toes. I'm going to turn my hips back around and just turn him down to the ground and allow him to kind of do a forward roll. Okay? All right.
The reason my fall looks different on these last two from the previous two is simply Sensei hanging onto my sleeve and bringing me around and control me through. Okay, that's why it looks different than what he asked me to do on the first two, because my arm, as you guys have learned, front rolling falls, you will reach out and make an unbendable arm there. Well, he's taking that away from me.
And I'm rotating him a little bit in the air. But his body mass is going through where that front rolling fall is. And so I'm not trying to pick him up and make him move through that motion. I'm allowing him to go through that motion. My hand pulls up on the sleeve so he ends up being on his back. Okay, so here, drive him back, slide up, he's on his little toes, rotate my hip back, and just roll him down to the ground. Okay? Go ahead. What I'm trying to do is I want to always repair my balance and come back into a balanced state. All right? So if I make him step and I step and we both have the same step, my foot automatically follows up behind. I'm trying not to. All right? But he's in balance and I'm in balance at this point. He's right in between his center of gravity, is right in between his feet, so is mine. I'm going to use my toes back here to lunge forward to drive him up. Now, I'm out of balance too because of the position that I took. I pushed with my toes, and so now I'm over the top of my front leg, and I don't want to be there. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a step. It isn't very long, it's about 6 inches, but now I repaired my balance. My center of gravity is now right in between my feet. And I'm holding him in a position on one leg. Okay? So here, no matter how it is, no matter how strong this happens to be, all I want to do is I just want to repair my balance. So I press him back, he's solid, I drive this up this way because I'm using that lunging motion of my back leg. But now it puts me in kind of an awkward position. And I want to get out of awkward as quickly as I can, so I slide up. Now, he's in an awkward position, but I got my balance back. I repaired it. Okay? So he's over here. All I'm going to do is, I'm just going to rotate my hip back. And down he goes. Okay, so you can go ahead.
One thing to pick up on here is we always talk about natural posture. Natural posture is not a weak posture. Natural posture is making sure that your center of gravity is over your feet, but you can still be doing something from that position. Right? And that's the key. As you move into that natural posture, you're maintaining my position instead of relaxing into natural posture. You can relax in a natural posture when you don't have somebody hooked to you. When you have someone hooked to you and you move into natural posture, you still want to maintain their position. And so Sensei has got compression in this arm as he's holding me over there. He's fixing his feet, he's getting his hips over his feet, and so that he's set, but he isn't letting me come back to natural posture. That's that move, that's that overlap of the Kuzushi and the Tsukuri. He's holding me there. He's broken me, and I'm stuck. He gets the natural posture, and then only gives me one alternative on how to get out. And that's the fall.
That's a good point. Hands, you may go to a seminar where people talk about doing Kuzushi by lifting your hands up like this. That's okay, but that's really the small part about Kuzushi. Kuzushi really comes from hips, and it comes from movement. And so very little judo, if you go to a tournament, very few people stand here like this and then grab and then try to do this. Instead, they start moving right away. All right, well, you're trying to move in order to break somebody's balance. And so very little judo, very little off balancing happens with a wrist motion that looks like this. I'm not saying that it doesn't help, and it can't be practical, but it really doesn't, it's not very effective against a really resisting partner. Instead, what we use is we use our hips. So I'm making Ken Sensei step backwards, okay? So this is just a normal step, all right? Where my Kuzushi starts is right now, because I press into my foot, lifting my heel, and I start pushing Ken Sensei up onto one foot. I repair my posture. This is the beginning of Tsukuri. Here I'm fitting. I'm beginning to fit in there. So it starts with Kuzushi on this one. I go into Tsukuri, which means that I'm starting to fit myself in a position. I make this motion coming backwards this way. Kake actually, I'm not sure where Kake is. I think Kake is right here at this point. So I start going backwards, but notice I'm still fitting. I haven't brought my leg up yet. The Kake's already started. Actually, what is the leg for? The leg is so that if he bends his knee and drops to the floor, he can go down on all fours. And there's no throw, because I need to get him to his back. Okay? So what is the leg for? The leg keeps him from bending his knee. It doesn't throw him. It's the prop that keeps his knee from bending and doesn't allow him to get out of the throw. So, starts out here, there's nothing. Here's Kuzushi. I start fitting here. That's Tsukuri. Okay? I start going backwards. This is Kake. Because I'm starting to generate the throw by retreating here, back onto one leg, and then I put the other leg up in place in order to make him go to his back. Okay? So, the other thing, like Ken Sensei brought up, is my hands are not inactive. Okay, I'm gonna do it wrong. So we step back here, and I do this. Notice this, I can move wherever I want to. If I don't maintain a grip on him, I'm missing that. So what I need to do is, my hands have a job to do, but it isn't that kind of a job. It's a job where I'm holding him here. I'm pressing him. I don't want that distance between the two of us to change. Okay? Here, stab up. I still have him in front of me. Like I said, I'm not trying to pull or make a big motion out of this. All I want to do is just maintain his position in a bad position and get my position back to a good position. Okay, so I'm back in balance again. I'm really strong at this point. Okay? Then I go backwards. On knee, and throw. Okay, go ahead. Okay, last piece of this is, where does the power come from? Power comes from my hips. Okay? So, what I want to do is, I get him to go back, I get adjusted, he's on his little toes. Where I get my power from is I'm going to rotate my hip back. So it rotates back. All right? That's what gets him to go in front of me. That's what gets him to make his front rolling fall. If I make that motion back to this back leg, and I shift my weight back this way, notice I just shifted him back into balance. Okay? I want him to go around me. This is horizontal circle. I want him to go around the outside edge. The way to make that happen is I rotate my hips. It's just like having an axle. I'm the axle. I rotate my axle. This is the spoke. Okay? And this is the wheel rim. He's sitting on the rim of the wheel on the outside. And I want him to circle around me. The only way to do that is I have to rotate my hip. So, I go here, I drive up, I shift my weight back, because I need to go backwards anyway, all right? And get that foot to go flat. Notice what happens is, as I rotate around, he's coming around the outside. He's rotating around this way. So, make sure that you're not constraining your hips by being too rigid on the top part of the body. That's also why posture is very important. If I stepped into this, and I've got my head down here, now it's really hard to do anything. I'm not getting him moving the way that I want to get him moving, because my posture is bad. Hizaguruma is a throw where your posture has to be upright. There's a lot of other things that we can do in Judo where we can be bent over to make them work, and make them work. But Hizaguruma is not one of those. Hizaguruma is a vertical posture technique. You need to be standing upright. So if he goes backwards here, notice all I have to do is I have to be in a position where I can rotate. And I'm going to take him along with me just because my hips rotate, my shoulders follow the hips. It's not this, okay? It has to be one body motion. I need to rotate my hips at the same time. Okay, you got a comment?
The only comment I'll make is for that vertical posture, when you're talking about a horizontal circle, you ever try to get a top to spin with a crooked axle? It won't work. It just flops all over the place. It doesn't work. It has to be vertical for a horizontal circle to happen. And so that posture is so critical to get a horizontal circle to work. And pretty simple concept if you think about a top spinning. It's got to be straightened down.
Could you grab your partner and throw? You have a nice Hizaguruma. What's your name?
Tom.
Tom?
Yes.
Yeah. I see myself better.
Yeah, I believe it.
Okay. Tom isn't turning as much as I would like to see you turn, but he's got a little bit of a turn in there. But he's done it for so long that he's refined it down so it's very minimal. When you first start, make a big, huge turn. Exaggerate it. Because eventually, as you practice it, it'll get smaller and smaller and smaller. One of the best people that I knew to do Hizaguruma was Paul Maruyama. Paul Maruyama was in the 1964 Olympics in Japan. And he'd grab a hold of you, and he would just do this, and you'd be flying through the air. And so that was from years and years and years and tens of thousands of repetitions doing Hizaguruma. He was fabulous at the technique, and it was one of his primary techniques. So it's a good technique to start out with, but you make it really small later. Make it really big to start with. Okay, go ahead. We're going to do Ko-uchi-gari. And we're going to kind of talk about the same things. We're going to talk about Kuzushi, Tsukuri, and Kake, and where all those things occur, and why there might be some discussion about where things start and where things stop. Okay? So, the one we're going to do here, we get a timing step with it. My partner goes backwards, and as my partner comes forward, I'm going to step behind my own heel, and I need to pull his foot a little bit, because what I'd like to do is I'd like my foot to just come out and get the back of his foot. Okay? So, that's where the Kuzushi starts. We're going to kind of take one piece at a time. So, I need to get him to take a longer than normal step. There. That's the Kuzushi. I drew him out so that he took a bigger than normal step. But I'm also doing Tsukuri, because I'm setting up for the throw. I turn, I put my foot right behind my heel, I got my foot ready so that I can make contact with his heel. That's all Tsukuri. That's all part of the manufacturing process of getting physically into position in order to make Kake. At this point, Kake starts, because I've made contact, and now I'm going to push his foot out from underneath him, make him take a huge step that he didn't expect, and then I'm just going to make him do a back fall. Okay? So, here, you see all the pieces? Tsukuri and the Kuzushi started together, but the Kuzushi stopped, or I guess it probably didn't, and then another part of the Tsukuri caught up with it, which is catching the heel and pushing that heel out of the way. Once those two came together, then Kake started. Okay, so this time there's no overlap. There's no argument about if there could be overlap, because it's really pretty crystal clear where everything kind of goes to Kake. Okay, so he takes a step back, he takes a small step, and turn. The horizontal circle on this is he's going around me. I'm bringing him around in a circle that goes around here. I don't have to concentrate on it very much at all, because by me making a circle, I force him to circle around me. It looks like he's going straight. Okay, so here, we follow on the line here. It's kind of in between Ken Sensei's feet. And it looks like he's going straight this way. All right? But it's not. See how he was on that line? And I drew him around in a horizontal circle toward the outside. So he's swinging rather than going straight. Okay? Everybody got enough information to make that work? Go ahead. That's all we do have. Taking one step. All right, so he goes 1, 2, 1, 2. I have to make 2 movements with my feet. I have to go 1, 2. All right? So I have to go twice as fast as he is, because I've got to make 2 movements. I have to make a step short step behind my own step because that's a lot of mass to move. All right, and it's easier to move it in a small circle than it is in a big circle. So I'm going to move it as quickly as I can, get it underneath my hips. Okay? The second movement is my foot comes out and captures the back of his heel. So I have to do 2 movements to his 1. So as you practice this, you can even count this out. He can count. So you 1, 2. Okay? So that you use counting, to help you figure out whether you're going fast enough in order to capture the foot. If I'm going slow, and he's counting again, 1, 2. See how I changed my timing, I slowed up, and when I didn't get the foot at the correct timing spot. So you can make use of counting in order to improve that technique, because now I know, all right, 1, 2, I was out of count with him, and so I need to make my foot go faster, so I go 1, 2, rather than 1, 2, because he's going 1, 2, okay? So make use of the counting to help you figure out how your timing is going, so you can improve your timing. Tell you what, let's just go ahead and work on this one for another 2 minutes, and then we'll take a short break and get a drink. And Ashiguruma. And the reason why I want to do that is that I have seen people teaching judo who call one the other, and the other the other. So there seems to be a little bit of confusion about what makes one different than the other one. And so what I would like to do is I'd like to accentuate the differences, so at least you know, if you go talk to a senior sensei someplace, you may get into a big argument. He may say, my rank's bigger than yours is, and so I'm right. So it's not necessary to argue about this with anybody, just so long as you understand it so that you can improve your practice. Now, if you go to a tournament and you throw somebody with one, and you throw somebody with Ashiguruma and they go, nice Hayatoshi, just go, thanks. Okay? You know the difference between the 2 of them. It isn't necessary that you explain to other people what the difference is. Okay, so what I want to do is I'm going to show you the difference between 2 of them, and then once we have that, then you'll have that. Okay, so we're going to start out actually with Ogoshi. Major hip throw. O meaning big or major. Goshi meaning this part of the hips. It's actually the upper thighs and the buttocks. Okay. So what I'm going to do with this one is this is an unusual Ogoshi. You won't see this any place on the internet except when I demonstrate it. Okay. And the way this one works is, I'm going to turn you sideways this way. You're going to fall again. Okay? So what I want to do is I want to plant my shoulder right into the side of his rib cage. You see my fingers over here on the other side? All right, I'm not trying to grab a hold of anything. I don't need to grab a hold of the belt or the material or anything else. All I need to do is get my hand over here and keep it there. Okay, so what I don't want to do is I don't want to do this. Now notice that my shoulder slid in front of him, and my hand now is way over here on this side rather than being over here. So I call this accommodation. And so I don't want you to accommodate your partner, I want you to control him. Okay, so the control comes, I plant this here, and I'm going to take a step, and I'm just going to continue to press him through, and I'm going to continue, I take the step. Notice that my posture is still forward here, and he doesn't front really fall. Okay? So I'm pushing him over that direction, using my shoulder to make the push, and my posture to make the push. This is not a throw where you stand upright to start out with. This is a throw where you get down like you're pushing a car, all right, and it's stuck in the mud or in snow. That's going to be coming pretty soon, all right? And how do you do that? Just keep your arms up. you put your shoulder into it, okay? And so you put your whole body into it, so you've got a really strong pushing direction, all right? I'm leaning into that car in order to get it to move out of that snowbank, all right? So my posture has got a very, very strong stance to it, okay? It's not upright. It only becomes upright at the very last instant. Okay, so I'm here, standing in front of him, and I'm going to step over here on the side and just wrap my arm around behind him as I step over here. My hand closes on him, but I'm not trying to grab anything. I don't need to hang on. All I need to do is just keep my arm here, keep my shoulder at the side. So I'm going to step and push through. Once I get to here, I'm going to turn my hip in, and I'm going to make him go over the corner of my hip. Okay, so here goes. Step here. Notice I didn't stand up until the very end of the throw. I don't want to insert my hip early. I want to insert it at the very last second. Now, when we do this, this is kind of hard to figure out where Kuzushi and Tsukuri is. All right? There's nothing because he hasn't changed anything, although I got in position. So this is the start of Tsukuri. Okay? I'm starting to manufacture body position to make the throw. Where's the Kuzushi? That's this. So definitely this time, fitting started way before the Kuzushi started. All right? I continue to press here. That's the Kuzushi. And at the very last instant, I put my hip in front. So the Kuzushi disappeared, and the Tsukuri takes over. Now Kake starts, once I get to here. Okay? So again, nothing's happening. The Tsukuri started. So I've gotten into position. I'm starting the manufacturing process of fitting in to make the throw work. I press in. Here's the Kuzushi. He's now going up onto his little toes. I drive my hip through. Down he goes. Okay? Any questions? Okay. Go ahead. We're going to do Taitoshi. So how does Taitoshi and Ogoshi, how are they related? Okay. He's standing, Ken Sensei is standing here. I come over here, I wrap my arm around behind his back. I'm hanging onto the sleeve, okay? And I press him off to the side. The difference between Ogoshi and Taitoshi is I don't have my arm around behind his back. I have my arm against his collar. And my forearm against the side of his rib cage. I don't want to straighten this arm out. I want to kind of wrap it in here so that my elbow is placed almost onto the side of his body. So now as my upper body moves, I don't have to maintain any muscle in order to make him move because he's moved by this fixed piece, this link, that goes from my shoulder to his rib cage. All right? So as I press, I'm pressing with a bone rather than using muscle. Okay? I could do it this way without a grip, except now it's pretty easy to slide one way or the other. So the grip helps me maintain the connection point of my elbow against his rib cage. Okay? So this is all just practical stuff. It doesn't have an awful lot of, it isn't a lot of muscular sorts of movement in order to make this work. All I want to do is replace my shoulder here with my forearm here. Okay? So Ogoshi is arm around behind the back. Taitoshi is arm here. And what I'm going to do is, I'm still at the side. I'm going to make that same movement, and I'm going to press him up onto his toes. Now, the interesting thing is I don't have to step out over here. I can step any place that I want to, or I can just drop my knee. If he's on his little toes, all I have to do is drop a knee, and he's going to move. The key to it is this push that I'm developing at his shoulders and how I'm doing it. Okay? So I'm here this way, my forearm is here. Just kind of make a fist up here, kind of draw the tension up, but don't overdo it. Don't make that really, really strong. Don't worry about that. All you want to do is just kind of make it tense. All right, just enough to hold it where you want it. Okay? I can step up here, and I can put my foot, like the Kune does, right in between his legs. So this is a strong pressing motion. Here, get him on his little toes. As I'm pressing this back leg, and my posture is making that happen. And now I'm just going to put my other foot someplace so my hip drops a little bit, because that's what makes the throw. Tai, body, otoshi means to drop. And it's like this is otoshi. All I did is I just removed support and it fell to the floor. Okay? If you ever see oroshi, oroshi is that, where you throw something down, forcefully trying to get it to go faster to the floor than what gravity takes. But what we're doing is otoshi, which just means to let gravity take over and let it fall. Okay. So that's what I'm doing here. I get this position here, I get this sleeve, and I press him up onto that one foot, and the otoshi is this dropping motion that I have. See what happens to it? As soon as you make that drop, as soon as my hips drop 2 to 3 inches, it starts launching him through the air. All right? So that's all you really want to do, is you want to be in a position where your hips drop. Now, it isn't necessary to be across this way when you drop. Notice I'm getting all tied up. I don't like that. Okay? So I'm here, plant this, I get him up onto one leg, and then just drop. Okay? Go ahead. Hayatoshi with a push. Okay. This motion that we've been following here, where I step over here and make the throw, or I guess I'm in Hayatoshi now, here is not really practical. Okay? But it illustrates perfectly a pure pushing motion. Okay? So I get here, and this is a pure pushing motion because I'm pushing him that direction. There's no confusion about trying to pull him over my leg. Notice I use the word pull. There's no pulling here at all. It's a pure pushing motion. Okay? That goes along with this teaching syllabus over here, which is the 6th dan, Ogoshi at the bottom, and then Hayatoshi right above the top of it. It's on the pushing half of the Gokyo no Waza. So this is a pure pushing motion. But this is not practical to get into in a tournament. So how do you get into Hayatoshi in a tournament? Okay, you're moving around here, and I'm going to step back this way. Notice what I got. I step right into that pure pushing motion again. All I need to do is get this leg out of the way. And so there's a nice spot over here. So I'm here, and I can just drop it into that spot. If you watch YouTube, search for Mifune, Kyuzo Mifune, and watch his Hayatoshi, and that's exactly the way he does his Hayatoshi. He puts his foot in between the legs rather than across the ankle. Okay, so all you're going to do with this is you're going to take a step back and load that forearm up on his chest again. Okay, so we're here, we're moving, I come here, and I'm in a pure pushing motion again. Here. if I have to, I can scooch up a little bit and drop that leg and get the Taitoshi to go. Okay, so go ahead and try that with that flare step. So back spin, come into a position, come into a really strong pushing position with your forearm and elbow against the side of your partner's chest. Okay. Ashikuruma. This is what I've seen high-ranking people in Judo teach as Taitoshi. And I suppose it's like doing Ogoshi and Ukigoshi. A lot of people get that confused also. So, Ashikuruma. Turn right there. The way I'm going to get into this is I'm going to do a back step. So I'm going to step backward here. So as I do, notice that he comes up a little bit on his toes. And then I'm going to raise my leg here so the toes are pointed up. And what I want to do is I want to rotate, toes are pointed down. So don't balance me. So I'm here, and I want to do this. Now notice my foot has to move. Okay? My foot doesn't stay in one spot. Again, you balance. Here, I come up here, and I do this. Okay? So, I'm doing a twisting motion in front of him. And I'm going to hang on with my hands, and my hands are what are going to pull him over my body. Okay? Now, we didn't talk about the oblique axis before when we were doing this, but this is pulling over an oblique axis. Taitoshi is pushing over an oblique axis. So before, there's an imaginary line that I'm here, and I do my Taitoshi, and there's an imaginary line that runs down here. And I'm going to push him over that. So he's going to fly. Okay? In this case, it's an imaginary axis, and I'm going to pull him over that. It's less imaginary. My foot is here. That's the axis point. And all I'm going to do is rotate. Okay, so this one is a spinning axis, if you will, that makes it work. So, with a throw, I back into this, leg comes up, and I just kind of rotate around. Okay? Do that much, then I'll show you the tournament version of that. Okay.
One note on this. It may look like Sensei's right arm is positioned identically between Taitoshi and Ashikuruma, but that push is not there on this one. That hand is rotated inside, and it's got a hold of my gi on my collar, but he's not pushing on my ribs. Okay? I'm feeling more pull on my sleeve to get this to work versus the push. When we did Taitoshi, we were probably, we spent most of our time focusing on that push, pushed them over that spot. Now we're pulling over it, and the push is back way off. There is some element of push on the collar, and in this one, while Taitoshi had some pull on the sleeve, but those are for guidance, not for power. Power's coming from the pull on this one versus the push on the last one. You just might not be able to see that difference because his arm looks like it's in the same place, but it feels different. Okay, thank you. Good point.
Yeah.
Okay. This technique can be, if it's done in a certain way, looks a lot like Taitoshi. And in fact, I went to a seminar by a world champion, and he did Taitoshi with a push when he did it really slow, and when he did it really, when he was demonstrating it, he did it as a pull, and when he did it really fast, he did it as a push. And so, but he was teaching the same technique to the audience, and he was calling both of them Taitoshi, and he wasn't even realizing that he was doing two different techniques And I'm guessing that probably any number of people sitting in the audience, trained people, wouldn't have noticed anyway. But I'm going to teach it different, okay? So what I want to do is this Hayatoshi is actually not Hayatoshi, it's Seiyo Otoshi, but it looks like Hayatoshi. And it has all the common characteristics of the Hayatoshis that you see on the internet, including this one where you put your foot across the ankle. Okay? So this is the way you see a lot of Hayatoshi done. You know, if you're looking at video on the internet, they'll be ankle to ankle with this. Okay? So I can even come in pretty much in the same way that we did before with the same entry to Hayatoshi. So I'm stepping here like this, come around over here, and I put my foot across this way, and all I'm going to do is just pull around. That's Hayatoshi. Actually, it's really not. It's Seiyo Otoshi. I'm sorry. Ashiguruma. It's Ashiguruma. Okay? So, if I'm wrapping him across, if I'm pulling him across my body, technically it is Ashiguruma. If I'm pushing him across an oblique axis, it's really Hayatoshi. Okay? That's according to our syllabus. Other people may teach it different ways and call it different things, and that's fine, but I want you to know that there's a difference, because there's a difference in the way that you train for that. If you confuse the two of them, then you may be doing two different techniques at the same time. You think you're doing one when you're really doing the other, and you're training one when you're really thinking about training the other. And I would like you to know the difference between the two of them, so that when you train, you know what you're doing. If you're doing Hayatoshi according to this syllabus with a push, then you can train just knowing that you're doing a pushing movement. Or if you're doing a pulling movement, that's fine. It doesn't make any difference. When the referee sticks his hand up in the air and goes, "Ippon, you've won the match," and somebody says, "What did you win with?" and you go, "I don't know, that thing that Sensei taught me," it doesn't make any difference what you call it, as long as the referee's arm goes up in the air. Okay? So just keep that in mind. So, I'll never ever be critical of what it is that makes this guy go to the ground for you. Okay? Whatever your technique ends up being, that's perfectly fine. But what I'd like you to know is the difference between the two of them. So when you train, you don't confuse in the middle of your training. You're doing two different techniques in the same training, thinking that you're doing only one. Okay? So this is rotation over an oblique axis while pulling. And I was stepping back into it here and this way. That's why you'll see Hayatoshi demonstrated a lot. You don't have to be nearly such a big turn in order to make this work. All you have to do is stab in and turn. Okay? All I'm doing is coming across and turning. So I'm pulling him around as I'm making that step in. And I'm stepping to the ground. I'm not trying to hold my leg up in the air, but still I should move. Okay? Go ahead, try it. We're thinking about that, kind of maybe not everyone's perfect technique if we move it.
That's just
Okay. Let's talk about Kuzushi and Tsukuri and seeing what's happening, how those things help us make this throw happen. Okay. So we're going to kind of do the classical method where I step back and put my foot up, the first method that we learned. And so I make this step back here. And actually this is Kuzushi and Tsukuri at the same time. Do you see that? I'm starting to make the throw, and as I step back into it here, that's starting to build the throw. I'm getting into position, and it's also because I'm doing something with my arms, and I'm using my arms to transmit the motion of the turning of my hips into his movement pattern over here. Now, I can step into this and not do anything with my arms. All right, I can do this. And now nothing has happened. Ken Sensei is standing just as solid as he was before. I call this accommodation. And it's one of the things that beginners have most difficulty with because I say, all right, I want you to turn around this way, and they go, okay, I did it. And when they turn, I call it an empty movement. They've made an empty movement and they haven't done anything. I haven't used my mass to affect his center of gravity. Okay, so as you turn back into this, maintain your arms a little bit in tension. You don't want to get rigid, all right? That's not where we want to be. We always want to have a little bit of spring through our arms. And so as I step back into this, as my hips turn, notice that I'm getting my partner to go into an off-balance position. Okay, I bring my leg up here, and I start rotating. And so I'm pulling him around. The Kuzushi started when I stepped in. Here I'm coming in, there's a Kuzushi. It starts at the same time that the Tsukuri starts, the manufacturing portion of it, okay?
Can we go down 90 degrees from here once?
Yes.
I'm online with them, they're not seeing the Kuzushi now.
Okay. Here,
You see how I moved straight sideways, so you probably, when we were turned 90 degrees from this, you didn't see how I went off balance.
okay.
Now you can see it in this position.
So I rock back onto my, as this foot rises, here, and I pull him around. So the placement of that foot and the Kuzushi, excuse me, the Kuzushi, the off-balancing, and the fitting happen simultaneously until Kake starts. So they're all, these two happen to start together and end together. Any question on that? Everybody see that? Talking black belts and brown belts now. Okay? Everybody kind of have an understanding of that? Okay. All right, next one we're going to do is Uchigari. We had a chance to play with a funny footstep again. But I like to reinforce it because it really works. And what this funny footstep is I'm going to turn my heel out. Notice I don't take a very big step. All I'm doing is moving my foot maybe 3 or 4 inches toward my partner, and I'm turning my heel out, and it needs to be 90 degrees to where I was standing. So here is pointing straight forward. My heel comes out this way. Notice that my hip turns, and as I rock backward here, I pull my partner across me. He took a step. I don't want to move this foot. I want to leave it right there, because as his foot comes by, I'm going to sweep his foot around. Okay? It's called Uchigari, which means it's a reaping motion. So it's, yes, okay. So I want to get him to step in front of me. So I turn my heel to the outside, and I rock back to it. As he comes by, I bring my foot inside of his leg, and I reap his leg out. The biggest problem that you'll have with this when you first start this is you put your foot down flat. And as you, so you'll start here, and you go plump. And then you'll do this, and he doesn't move. And you go, what happened? It needs to be 2 parts. Okay? So I turn my heel out this way. It allows my hip to turn a little bit. Notice that here's the Kuzushi starting. I'm starting to twist him around in front as I take this step over here. As I come down here, he wants to catch his balance because I'm rocking away from him and forcing him to take a step in front of me. Okay? So turn your heel. All right? Allow your hips to turn a little bit and get a little bit of motion up here. I don't want to do this too much because if I do this, he walks before I drop my heel. Yeah, I'm going to end up being vulnerable. Okay? So I just want to rotate my heel out. Here, drop. Take the leg out. Just reach the leg out. Okay? As I turn, there is a little bit of movement in the shoulders. Try not to overemphasize that. don't get him to step early. Okay? Heel out. And you reap the leg. Okay? All right. Yes, sir.
Can you turn it around so we see it from the back side?
This way.
Thank you.
Okay. Here, heel out. Rock back. That was the best one. Okay?
Boom.
Okay. Go ahead. Okay. We are doing rondori, okay? And we're bent down this way. Now, most people are going to go, how is that going to work when you're down here? If I have to take a step up here, he's going to recognize right away that I'm doing something. He's going to either attack me or he's going to retreat and get out of my way. Okay, good point. So we're here. All I want to do is just turn my toes, my heel up from wherever I happen to be standing. Whatever body position I happen to have. How come you walked? Why'd you walk? Okay? It's true. He said he didn't have much choice. This is a unique body movement. I've only seen very, very old guys do this. I've never seen any young guys do this at all. Okay? And when I talk to people who I've showed this, they all say, I've only seen very, very old guys at the Kodokan do this. No young guys do this. But this is one of the ways that you move somebody. All right? And so you get into this kind of a sort of a thing. Guess what? I come. Because he ran right around the outside of me. I don't have to use this just for Ochigari. I can use this for whatever I want to use it. He steps in far enough, I've got Uchimata. Up, over the leg goes, down he goes this way. He walked around behind me. I need to take advantage of that. So keep this in mind is that, you can be out here. Anybody, those people who have done judo for a while recognize this as being an advantageous position. Uchigari works here. So like I said, so is Uchimata, come in and take a leg, or Taitoshi. All right? You can use this to set up many things. It's a very powerful motion. Kind of get used to the idea of practicing it as much as you can. Incorporate it in every practice. Incorporate it into rondori. Give it a couple of tries. See, you may do it twice, and then your partner may become wise to you and not allow you to do it again. But every time that you do it, you're going to learn something new about it. Every time you do it, it's going to become more powerful. And every time you do it, you're going to remember it a little bit better, and it's going to be harder for your opponent to do anything about it. You'll get to the point where it'll just become automatic, where you turn your heel out, and drop your heel back, and get your partner to come back, and you just follow up with whatever technique you want to do. We're going to do, everybody got the Ochigari? Why don't you play with this? Kind of a bent down position. Turn the heel out, rock back, and then you can, like I said, get your partner to swing around the outside of you. Whether you do Ochigari or not isn't really important. Learn how to get your partner to move by using that leg motion, that foot motion. Okay? All right. Go ahead. Going on. So, when you do this, you want to take your hips to your heel, not take your heel to your hips. Okay? And I see, and this is the hard part about this technique, is it's very easy to take your heel back to where your hips are. And instead, you should be moving your hips where your heel is. Okay? So, as I step out here like this, what a lot of people do is as they go back, they rock back this way. Notice that my hips didn't move. Guess what? He didn't move either. I wanted him to go over here. I can't get him to go over there unless my hips rotate. Okay? So I turn my hips off to the side. My heel goes off to the side this way. maybe not an awful lot of commitment to my hips at this point, but as I rock back to that heel, notice where my hips went. They're facing that way. My hips have turned 90 degrees from where they were. That's what makes this work. Okay? I have a hip rotation. Here. They're facing that way. They're facing that way. See what I did? So when you do this, make sure that your hips rotate over the top of your heel, not the other way around. Don't bring your heel back to your hips. Make sure that your hips rotate. Line up in the room. Look over your partner's shoulder. Okay? I'm looking into the mirror. I take this step off over here. I turn my body this direction. Now I'm looking at the camisa. Okay? Make sure that you're turning your body at 90 degrees. Now, Ken Sensei was reminding me that he weighs 10 pounds more than I do.
About 50.
All right? And I was teasing him. I said, why are you moving? This is a hard thing to stay out of when it's done right. All right? I turn my heel over here. It's hard for him not to move. All right? It's a very powerful motion. But if I'm turning this way and then my hips don't move and I do this, I didn't get him to go that way because I didn't go that way. All right? That's got a lot of power to it. It's just a real simple little thing. The hips have to turn in order to make him step on the outside. Okay, go ahead. Thank you all. Set up. Okay. I'm going to use this to do Hirai-goshi. So what I want to do is I want to make sure that my feet don't come off the ground. Because the tendency as you do this is to do this. All right, to step in parallel with your partner. Instead, I want to do, he's here, I make this come here, I want to go this way instead. I want to go across rather than back. Because what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to turn in, and now I can do the right motion. Okay? So, instead of thinking that your foot is going to go here and this way, which is O Uchigari, okay? Instead of doing that, instead what I'm going to do is, as I sit here and rock this direction, I'm going to do this. So I'm going to cross my legs, and notice my foot comes across here, keep it down. Once I'm here, everything rotates back this way. And the leg comes up here, and all I'm going to do is just twist him down to the ground. This is kind of like wringing a rag, where you go this way, rather than lifting the leg up. Now, we see a lot of Hirai-goshi where they lift the leg up, and that's where the power comes. This one's powered differently. This one is powered in a twisting motion of the body like wringing a rag. You'll notice that when I do this, okay, so here's my heel goes out, I'm coming across here. Now, my body is twisted, I'm still facing Ken Sensei. What I'm going to do with my upper body is I'm going to go around this direction. My lower body is going to go around that direction. So I'm making that wringing motion. So I'm here, as I put my heel back down again, all I need to do is, I don't have to lift my leg to get him to fall over. His shoulders are going one way, his lower part of the body is going the other direction. It makes for very difficult throw to round off out of. Because if you go over the top, you can put your hands down, because your feet are coming up high, and you can make a round off. If you're doing this, everything is going down. So there's no chance of getting your hands down and then getting your legs to go up, because the legs aren't being powered up. They're being powered back. Okay? So, do it this way. Heel down here, steps across over here. Okay? Go ahead. Goshi. I want to continue to do that same analysis that we just did. We're not going to do the throw again, but we're going to look at where does Kuzushi start, and where does Tsukuri start, and where do they end, and where does Kake start. Okay. So I turn my heel to the outside. This is not a normal movement, and as soon as I do that, I start affecting my partner's balance. And so this is Tsukuri. Actually, this is Tsukuri here. This is Tsukuri and Kuzushi when I step over here. All right? Because he's starting to walk. He wants to get over there. Everything at this point is Kuzushi and Tsukuri. So I'm continuing here. He gets over here and I stop him. And I turn back and I bring him back with me. As the leg comes up here and makes contact, that's the beginning of Kake. Right as the leg makes contact. All right? Before that, it's still Kuzushi and Tsukuri. Because as I'm turning back this way, I'm continuing to take his shoulders around in a circle up here, and I'm going to bring my leg down here across the bottom, and I'm going to turn. So, it starts out with the manufacturing, or the making of movement. I'm starting by putting my heel up to the side. It doesn't change much in the way of off-balancing or crushing, all right? And as soon as I set it down, I start to get Buke moving. That's the Kuzushi part. He's moving. He's stuck in a pattern that he's not going to be able to recover out of very well. Okay, see how it crushes him? He's stuck in a pattern that he cannot no longer control. Okay? He takes that step around the outside. I'm coming back inside. As I step across, I take over control of his shoulders. All right? He's starting to come around this way. As I put my heel back over here, come up here, and just make contact with the leg. And now I have that ringing motion. Yes, sir?
Can we use these for the camera, for the people who are going to watch this video, like we were a little bit ago?
Yeah, sure.
Emphasize what you were saying?
Yep.
Let me borrow your thing. Just hold that right there so the camera can see it. Not my face. What Sensei Borgen just said is it's going to start with Tsukuri.
Kuzushi follows
Goes to
immediately
Kuzushi.
afterwards.
Tsukuri keeps following until it hits Kake.
Okay. Next technique is Dayashi Barai, advanced foot sweep. This one has another toe-heel combination for a very important reason, because I want to take 2 steps. Well, I should say I want to take 1 step while he takes 2. Okay? So we're here and we step forward, I step back this way. I'm going to slide my foot over just a little bit, not very far. I don't want to turn my hips at all. All right? And as I take this step, he wanted to take a step up here, so he did. All right? So, actually, no, it was this way, sorry. Wrong foot. Wrong foot. I'm going to take a step back here. He took a step already here. I'm going to take a second movement by dropping to my heel. And he takes a step forward. And I sweep the foot. So I only took 1 step, really. 1 was to the toes, and then I dropped to my heels. And so it was a 2-movement step. And I forced him to take 2 steps to my 2-movement step. So I only really took 1 step while he took 2. But because I divided it up into 2 separate components, I forced him to take a second step. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay? So, it's here. I'm stepping here. I step back. And let's see, let's get up the line. What I want to do is I want to shift my foot over a little bit. So as I take a step back, I would normally step back here, which means that I'm over a little bit from that line. Instead, what I'm going to do, I'm going to come back to that line here, and now I'm going to drop my heel back, force him to take a second step, and then take that foot out from underneath it. So here's what some people may do, and they do this. They'll go here, and they'll do this. Now, I don't have the second component of my step. I try to pull and do whatever I can, but then I go like this, and now I'm out of position. Okay? So don't rush the toe heel part. Make it very distinct, and you have to follow his tempo. I can't impose my tempo on him. I can, but it's limited. I can't take 3 steps, force him to take the same 3 steps. Okay? I have to go with the speed that he's going. So I'm here, and he goes 1, that's my 1. Now he's ready for 2, 2. I can't go 1, 2, because now he's not ready to take that second step. Because I move too fast. So just slow that down a little bit. Here, 1, 2. And you get the Ashabara. Okay. Go ahead. This is not a normal motion, okay? So we don't identify with it, and it's something that we have a hard time working our way through because it's hard to see what we're doing. Okay? I've done it enough times so that I know what my foot is doing. All right? So I'm here, and I take a step back. Notice what I'm doing. I stamp it loud just so it draws attention. But my heel is way up in the air. Because if I put my heel down here, my hips are going to move back 6 inches, which draws him forward. If I don't put my heel down there, if I start here, now my heel is only 2 inches above the floor. I didn't do anything. See kind of what's you need to have that foot placement has to be right in order for this to work. Because my hips have to move in order to get him to follow along. And so practice this, and then go, hey Jeff Sensei, is my foot right? And so the coach says, okay, up a little bit more? Okay, all right, but see, because I can't see what's going on with my foot, if I look down here, I go, okay, I can see it. But don't get into the habit of putting it down low, because now I can rock into my heel and just straighten my leg, and notice that my hips don't move at all. And the key to this is making my hips move, to get him to move. All right, so it's here, and it goes this way. Now, he takes that step forward because of the placement of my toes. So get used to the idea of putting that heel up high and then rocking into it in order to get him to take a step forward. Okay? Somebody else also noticed that commented that last time I taught this, I said take a larger than normal step. I'm still doing that. I just didn't say it. The other thing is I'm losing my posture a little bit in the beginning and recovering it at the end. Because if I take a longer than normal step, I don't want him to know about it. So what did I do? I bent forward at the waist a little bit so I could put my foot back a little bit further. Now, as I come back, I draw him forward maybe 8 to 10 inches, maybe a foot. Okay? So it's a little trickery involved in making this work. But it starts with the heel high and the toes down. Like I said, don't allow it to be down here and do this. Instead, you want to leave yourself enough room so you can rock back onto that heel and move your hips back, straighten your posture up, and really get your partner moving. Okay? Go ahead, try it again. And Tsukuri and Kake. Okay, so we're here. I'm taking a step. He's taking a step. What's happening? Is there any Kuzushi? No. I've started manufacturing though. I'm into Tsukuri. Okay? Because I've placed my foot in a special position and I've adjusted my posture. As I rock back into that, now I'm in Kuzushi. So I'm forcing him to take a step that he wouldn't normally take. Well, actually would normally take it, but I'm controlling what's happening. Actually, maybe there isn't any Kuzushi in this one. And then
Because it's so timing.
yeah, because there's so much timing. There may not be any Kuzushi in here. All right, it's all Tsukuri. Because I'm not trying to get him to do anything with my hands. I'm not trying to affect his posture in any way. All I want him to do is walk normal. Then everything, all the way through the end of it, as soon as my foot makes contact with the back of his heel, it becomes Kake. And all of a sudden I'm in the throwing motion. Make sense? Does that feel comfortable? There's very little to no Kuzushi in this throw.
That's why we have to do the timing step.
That's why the timing step has to be perfect to get it to work. Everybody comfortable with that? Jeff is looking down, kind of over here at the corner of the map.
Well, there's Kuzushi, there's lots of it, but we don't supply it. We take advantage of it.
Okay, yeah.
That's
I'm not supplying.
That's right. Okay, supplies movement.
Yeah.
Here.
My posture isn't ever crushed though in there. There's no, at no point in time am I crushed, am I locked into a position that I have no way out of. And so it is purely a timing.
Pardon? Can you do it again? Let's see. Okay. Here, normal step. Normal step.
Yeah.
Kake. So in this case, it's all Tsukuri. I'm moving into a position where I can take advantage of him taking a normal step. When we did Koichigari here, this way, he took a normal step, except I'm turning him with force at the elbow, so he takes a longer step that allows me to sweep his foot out of the way. And he's opened his back to the ground. Okay? So there is Kuzushi on this one, because I'm throwing him out. Where, huh?
Yeah, you're extending my step.
I'm extending his step. In this case here, I didn't extend anything. All I did is I faked him out, because my posture changed. Remember, our perception of movement is based on distance. Okay? So if I can maintain this distance between the shoulders here, he thinks I'm taking a normal step. He thinks I'm taking a normal step. He thinks I'm taking a normal step, except I didn't at the very last. All right? But I'm making use of the fact that his perception is based on the distance between shoulders. That's what most people judge distance on, and judge movement on is how shoulders move. That's why karate people move square-shouldered and square-hipped, so that they don't telegraph that motion. They're here, here, here. And he can't. My shoulders aren't doing this, which is what they normally do. And so he sees me as moving forward. It's harder to see me moving forward if I'm moving forward with my shoulders square to the room and I'm coming this way. He has less perception of that movement than he does of the other. Our eyes aren't far apart enough on our head to be able to have that kind of depth of field that shows when he's moving forward. The best person to demonstrate this is Timothy Cruff. And when Timothy was young, now he's crippled, but when he was young, he would stand this far away from me, and he would say, "Stop my kick." And he would take, I don't know how many steps. The next thing that would happen is his foot would be right here, right next to my head, over the top of my shoulder. And I didn't even perceive that he moved. He was so good at not giving away any movement by changing the position of the shoulders. So that by the time you sense that he's close to you, he's already taken one giant step. And he's closing that space very, very quickly. And that foot comes over the top of the shoulder, you go, wow. He moves very fast. He doesn't really move fast. He just understands how we perceive movement because of our eyes and our brain. And so if I can't perceive that he's moving, it means then that I have a harder time trying to defend against that. I said, it was an amazing experience with Sensei Croft, because that foot would be right next to your head, and just a heartbeat like that, and you'd go, "Why do you do that?" That's the key to that. So when your perception of distance is controlled by what happens with shoulders. And so I take this movement here, as I come back here, that's part of it right here. I've changed my shoulders. He's following my shoulders because that's what his brain wants him to do. All right? Really well-trained fighters don't do that. Okay? And so as I rock to my heel, I want to maintain that distance. And so I maintained that distance. He thought I took a normal step. I didn't. I just dropped my heel and took a second motion on the first step that I took, and convinced him that I was taking a second step, which exposes his ankle to being swept. Make sense? So I can't see any Kuzushi doing this, because Ken Sensei is just taking a normal step. He's just going 1, 2, whatever. But as he takes that second step, I'm catching the back of it because my timing and my positioning, my Tsukuri, has put me in a position where I can sweep that foot out from underneath it. So my guess is no Kuzushi. This is something we could argue about and talk about over a beer. You know, that's kind of what it is. It's a mind exercise. It's a mind exercise to try to. We need to think about these things, to analyze them, to make our judo better. And once we start thinking about, wow, let's try that again. You know? So you get out here with your partner and you start going, all right, 1, 2. Yeah, I don't see any Kuzushi either. Or with any of the techniques that we've done. Where does Kuzushi start? Where does Tsukuri start? Where do they end? Where does Kake start? You know, how are those things developed? How do they fit together? Improves our judo. And this is kind of, like I said, this is the first time I've ever understood it like this. This is all my research. So I hope it works for you. I hope it works for all of you. Let's stand up and we'll just make a circle bow.